Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Pradeep Goel. I'm the CEO of Solve.Care. I have spoken to many of you in the past, but our community has grown a lot. So I'm sure that there are many of you that I'm speaking to for the very first time. And I welcome you to Solve.Care community. We have a lot to cover. Our AMAs tend to be very long. This AMA is scheduled for 2 hours, and we will cover more than 20 topics. So without further ado, we'll get started. We will use a PowerPoint to capture your questions, which were submitted in the community using the Google Docs. And I will try to answer as many as I can, but we can always do another AMA. I'm always available to the community when I'm not working on the client or the product or the organizational side. So we do AMAs quite frequently. If your question is not fully answered today, just make sure that we get to it in the next AMA, because there is a lot going on. So without further delay, let's kick it off on our AMA presentation. And today is January 30th, 2023. This is Solve.Care's AMA for the community. A lot of questions have been sent, and I will try to address most of them. Here are the categories of questions, but let's jump into the first question. What are the updates on the improvements and new features for Care Labs, Care Wallet, Care Protocol, and Care Cards, as well as Solve tokens, and what further new features and additional enhancements are coming to them in the future? There is a lot in each of these areas that we can discuss, but let's first look at the overall product management. So we have brought in a dedicated director of product management whose job is to manage the roadmap for the whole product portfolio, which consists of this plus the Care platform. So the labs, the wallet, the protocol, the cards, and the token, most of these roll up into the Care platform. So we have a product management council and a product manager and a product management team whose job is to manage the roadmap for these items. That's how we manage our efforts. However, I can give you some of the key features of each of the areas that you have asked here. So first, Care Labs. So Care Labs is the environment where our clients can author new care networks. And Care Labs is going through rapid evolution based on both our internal usage of the labs as well as external usage of the labs. And the labs serves three audiences: the Care Labs delivery team, the Care platform clients, and partners. And each of them has slightly different requirements. So for our delivery team, the labs is fully functional, and they are using it to author new care cards and journeys and networks. For our clients, the labs is being matured so they can do their own authoring. Some very exciting features are being added to the labs for a physician to do not just authoring, but visualization. And that is part of the labs roadmap. And then for partners, we are developing the Care Labs Academy and training courses so that they can author full networks without our intervention and support. So labs has three audiences: the internal delivery authoring pods, the external partner pods, and then clients' ability to author their own cards, especially physician-authored cards. And all of those three are driving the roadmap for Care Labs. Care Wallet, the big focus is on opening the wallet. So there is a huge push on opening the wallet through APIs and SDKs for third parties to integrate their devices and their apps into the wallet, as well as for the wallet to achieve a much higher level of functionality when it comes to compliance. So we will be announcing a very significant enhancement to the wallet in the coming days, which we think will make the wallet unique in the market, both in healthcare and in crypto. On the protocol side, the protocol is always getting enhanced. We have a major new feature of the protocol that we will be announcing soon, which makes the protocol e-commerce enabled. And that's a very important and big deal, because it allows us to then envision care networks where e-commerce type functionality is simply a matter of configuration. So whether it is pricing or payments, those kind of features are being added to the protocol. The cards, the pride and joy. Care card has gone through a massive transformation, and we have spent for the last 2 months working just on the care cards. I was personally involved with the team. So were many other members of the senior leadership as well as our dev team. So care cards are going to be dramatically enhanced, and you can expect announcements on that as well. On the Solve token side, there's a massive effort underway to make Solve token more transparent, more traceable, and to make it more easier for it to be swapped with other tokens. I'm not going to tell you more than that, because that will spoil the surprises that we have planned for you. But the answer for all of these is that these are all currently in active development or in testing, and every one of these areas is on the roadmap for 2023. And some of them are on the roadmap for Q1, others are on Q2 and Q3 and beyond. In addition to these 5 areas, there is care platform, pieces and parts that you don't see, which are equally important. And we have a significant amount of work already completed, but there is one major announcement on the care platform that you should expect to have over the next few weeks. So I cannot share more than that because we have a lot of series of announcements planned for you. Some of them touch the exact product enhancements, and many of them touch the utility and the partnerships related to the platform. But this is all part of the 2023 roadmap, and most of it is progressing as I had hoped to see. Solve.Care wants to bring on-protocol GTHE definitize and care marketplace. That is correct. If other clients want to bring in similar networks into the platform, how will it affect Solve.Care? Our platform does not differentiate between our networks and client networks. If a client wants to launch a GTHE-like network or definitize type network or care marketplace type network, they are free to do so. Their network will target its own audience, its own participants, its own roles, its own country wallets with certain country and accessibility rules. So we do not and will not create a distinction that just because we have launched care marketplace on our platform, that someone in Africa cannot launch the Africa specific or a global care marketplace. So our platform is democratic in the sense that it's open. It's available to anyone who has a justifiable need for a care network. And we will not distinguish or discourage the creation of competitive networks, because the healthcare market that we are serving is vast. There are 7 billion people on the planet. Every single one of them needs some kind of healthcare at some point in their life. And there is no one single network or even one single dominant network that should or can serve everyone. Our measure of success is the diversity of care networks and the availability of networks to markets big and small, and economically and geographically diverse. So we welcome third parties creating their own networks of similar or even competitive to Solve.Care networks. Please give us a recent detailed updates and plans about Korean networks and other network partnerships coming abroad soon from different cities, institutions, and clients. So I can say this. Right now, our network pipeline for 2023 is in excess of 20 networks, and they're spread across different countries. Of course, US is a big part of it, and Korea is a big part of it, but there are other countries as well. Those networks have been organized into quarterly roadmap, and for each quarter, we have defined the 6 to 7 networks for that quarter that we will publish. Q1 is off to a strong start. There are a number of networks being authored as we speak, and we will publish more networks as the time goes by. And of course, this does not count for networks that our clients or our partners will author independent of our roadmap. I'm speaking about Solve.Care authored networks for clients, partners, and ourselves. That's well in excess of 20 networks that we have planned for this year. But from a third-party perspective, we expect a lot more. Korea is a big part of our strategy. We are not going to publish at this point in time a Korea-specific roadmap, but the overall roadmap for Solve.Care includes Korea in a very meaningful way. That's how much detail I can give you on this topic today. But there are a number of announcements that are planned over the next 3 weeks that will give you more insight into this question. Is there a certification process in the platform for networks, journeys, and cards to ensure users authoring them is following the due and secured process? Or is the certification automated in the protocol, and how is it done? This is a great question. It needs a detailed answer. So first question about certification process in the platform. So in the Care Labs, there is 3 different levels of Care Labs users. There is the author, there is the developer, and there is the integrator. An author authors the network largely using existing artifacts in the Care network, in the Care Labs, to author new Care networks, which means that they use existing tiles library, they use existing card library, they use existing event handlers, and they can very quickly assemble a card or a journey or multi-journey network. And that's done by the platform in the sense that you cannot break the platform. You can only do what the platform permits you to do. And that's very easy to get started. And the training manuals for that Care Labs Academy Level 101 are being created. Now, the second part of that is a developer level, which requires you to understand how to create new artifacts. Those new artifacts can be a new set of event handlers. It can be a completely new from scratch Care tile. It can be a brand new function which powers any of the transactions between wallets. So there are ways for the developers to enhance the network beyond what can be quickly authored. And that requires training. And that's what we call level 201 through 301 training courses. And it does require the developer to go through the training courses and pass them. There is a testing process involved. And you must pass the training for you to have access to the APIs that will allow you to write event handlers, for instance. Then there is the final level of certification, which is called integration. And the integration takes 3 forms: device integration, data integration, and event integration. The device integration can be done through the Care wallet or the Care data node. The event integration can be done through the Care data node and the device data. And data integration and event integration both happen through the Care data node only. Device integration happens through the Care wallet. That requires a different level of training. You have to pass the integration course where the SDK and APIs are available. And that process is available to only entities that we have certified on the previous levels. You have to be developer certified before you can become integration certified. There are organizations that can demonstrate that to us immediately, the very large IT houses, the healthcare IT organizations. So they can race through level 1, 2, 3, 4 and get to level 5. But end of the day, there are 5 levels of training, starting with 101, finishing with 50X level of training. And the certification is simply a function of passing all the necessary levels to be able to access the right level of the platform. So to do authoring, you only need 101, 201 courses. To do development, you need 301 courses and 401. And to do integration, you need to pass 501 courses. So this is all part of the Care Labs Academy that we are developing. This is also another very important question: Care Circles. So Care Circles are a form of Care network for users, correct? It's a Care network that is created around every single Care wallet holder. So you create your own circle. You do not need anyone to author any journeys for you. But by creating a Care network, you automatically get certain journeys, such as how are you feeling today? So you and your Care circle automatically receive the how are you feeling today journey just because you've created the Care circle. But there are no limitations on who you invite to your Care circle. Can users add like 100 wallets in their Care circle and socialize, network share, and monetize data and items between these wallets? There are restrictions on what you can do in the Care circle. You can share cards, you can delegate cards, you can delegate authority. Care circle can serve as your legal guardian or as your legally authorized representative. So there are things you can do in the Care circle that make it very, very useful from a legal point of view. You can gift tokens, you can pool tokens, you can share the cost of different services. So I can my mom can invite me to her care circle, and when she receives a bill from the doctor, I can use my tokens to pay it instead of her tokens, or I can gift my tokens to her. So all those are permitted. What is not permitted is buying and selling of data in the care circle. So I cannot send a card to my mom who's in my care circle and ask her to send me money for buying my data. So care circle is a care coordination, solved token pooling, gifting, and spending. And it is a function of delegation of authority, consent, power of attorney, but it is not a place where you can run your own e-commerce network with your care circle members. So there is not that much opportunity to do dangerous or illegal actions. Remember that in the care circle, everything happens through a care card. And if the card has not been authored, the care circle cannot just use a functionality that will be considered dangerous or illegal, but there's no card to support it. And any such card that, if it is authored, would be validated against the protocol, and the protocol would not be permitted if there is anything that we think is illegal. So care circles are a standardized care network where the cards are pre-built by Solve.Care, and those cards prohibit any kind of dangerous or illegal actions by the user. But they are a very powerful circle in the sense that delegation of authority, to ability to assign someone to make decisions on your behalf if you're incapacitated, gifting and pooling solved from a payment point of view, the ability to be notified if a circle member is not keeping up with their health requirements, or to intervene if they're not responding to a doctor inquiry. Those type of really powerful collaborative care models can be implemented in the care circle, but there is no way for that to be abused from a monetary or regulatory compliance perspective. Two greatest abilities of using care platform is having decentralized data and identity, correct? All decentralized data in the platform is called care data. Then why not have care identity symbol for all decentralized identity and profile in the platform to make it unique to the platform? And also, will other users of data apart from the medical data be taken or named as care data? It's a very good question. It's a great suggestion, and it fits our general model, but there are similar terminology we already use. So in our world, the care card is the atomic unit of care data. So care data is a concept. Care card is a physical representation of that concept. And care card contains certain data. It has an originator, it has a receiver. It can have permissions, and it can have views. It can have the ability for it to be shared and unshared. It has the ability for it to be audited, and it has the ability for it to be responded to. Now, the care card contains content, the data. It also contains options and choices for the receiver to take action, and it has an underlying event ledger that tracks every movement of every card between every wallet from a sender and receiver perspective. So care data is the data object linked to the card. So in that regard, we already do this, but we use the word care card, not care data, because people don't understand data as a concept. People understand physical objects like a card. It's much easier for grandma to understand that she's sending someone a card, even though that card actually contains data. Similarly, it's true for identity. Your identity is defined by your wallet. Identity has attributes. Your identity can have attributes such as your current phone number, or your email address, or your location, or your name, or your phone number. Those are attributes, but they don't define your identity. They're simply attributes of your identity. The identity in the Care Wallet is your Care Wallet ID. And that Care Wallet ID is unique. And that Care Wallet ID can be multilateral, multi-tier. So the identity of the Care in the Care Wallet is already defined into 7 tiers. We have physical identity, we have contact layer of the identity, we have the preference layer, we have the financial identity, we have the healthcare identity, the benefit identity. There are many, many layers of identity that you can create. We have defined a 7-tier care identity. It's called care profile, but it represents your composite identity. Your identity is multifaceted, and some facets we need to know, and most facets we don't. but you have control over all the facets of your identity. Some are changeable, some are not. For example, if I go through a KYC process and I get a third party to identify the KYC attributes and to say, okay, Pradeep is who he says he is, and that issues me a token, that KYC token becomes part of your identity. I don't necessarily need to share my KYC information, only the fact that I've been KYC'd by a third party that is a certifiable, reliable KYC provider. So they have verified my identity, and therefore I can now share that token with somebody else. That just gets layered into the Care identity. So where we store the Care identity is what we call Care profile. So whether we call it Care profile or Care identity, the concept is exactly the same. And Care profile has been dramatically enhanced. And in an upcoming release and announcement, you will see what I mean. But it's a great suggestion. So Care data is a Care card, and Care identity is a Care profile in our system. Excuse me. The mission of Solve.Care is to be the app store of healthcare, and Care Marketplace is designed to have DApps. Yes. But we should also create a unique brand name for the platform called Care Store, dedicated strictly for launching healthcare DApps and also accessible to all wallet holders, just like Apple or Play Store in the centralized world. So that's a good question. What you are calling a Care Store is actually a Care network. So think of it this way. When you launch a DApp, there are two kinds of DApps. One is an app that you simply launch in the market, and it does something between party A and party B, okay? And that requires party A and party B to have that app on their wallet. But that app might do something. It might provide some kind of an interaction or exchange of tokens or value or information between two parties. The problem with such DApps is that there are millions of those DApps out there, but they don't talk to any other DApps. So they are largely useless in healthcare. And building such DApp Care Marketplace will create no value unless these apps talk to each other. So our world, we are talking about hyper-connected DApps, where every app that is built can talk to a group of participants and every other app for that group of participants. It's a network of apps. So our DApp is a Care card, and if you have a very complex DApp, then it becomes a Care journey. That's a DApp, but you have to launch it in the context of a Care network. So a Care store is in effect equivalence of a Care network with defined participants, with defined users. And if you want to create a Care store that is global and open, which is how you have written the question, then you just create a Care network that is global and open. So what would be thought of as a marketplace or a Care store is really in effect a globally accessible Care network. And someone else's DApps that they want to publish can be published into the same Care network if those apps make sense in the context of participants. So we are taking the view of two very important themes in healthcare, none of which are easy, and bringing them together. The first one is the App Store, and the other one is the marketplace. And when you combine them, you end up with the Care platform. So an App Store is what we have built in the context of a Care platform and Care labs, and you can publish DApps. And the marketplace for the apps is what a Care network is. So the answer to your question in a nutshell is this. Every Care network is its own Care store based on your question. And if you want to build a global Care store, you can do that by building a Care network with no eligibility requirements or participation. But most clients are interested in building a Care store for their participant population and have those apps interact with each other. So we are blending the network of network concept with a marketplace concept, and they both intersect in what we call the Care network. You can create a small or a large Care store in the form of a small or large Care network. The Care marketplace is designed for reusable objects and for objects and services and apps that are network neutral. So in other words, if you want to buy a device and that device can be used in any Care network that supports it, you would go to Care marketplace. which in itself is a care network to begin with. So the notion here is that you're building Lego blocks, and you can, using Lego blocks, build anything that your imagination lets you do. And every care network is a care store in the end. There's a lot of buzz about AI recently. So tell us how this will be incorporated and benefit the platform. So there are a couple of things about AI. To us, AI represents multiple potential use cases. The first is that we can integrate AI-driven analytics and AI-driven diagnostics and AI-driven functions such as recommending care or identifying gaps in care or identifying potential risks of drug interaction. These are all therapeutic uses of AI, where using patient data or group data or a population data, the AI can project and provide some care recommendations. We are working with several companies who do that kind of a thing, and we see them as potential partners for Solve.Care because they are using AI in a specific clinical context, like diabetes, like cancer, like potential risk of developing congestive heart failure to happen later in your life, or predicting based on your BMI or based on your retinal scan what your health risks are. So there is a lot of clinical uses. For a clinical use AI to be launched in the market, for it to be incorporated into our platform as a building block for care networks, in other words, for us to enable an AI-enabled care card, we need to make sure that that AI-enabled care card is FDA approved or equivalent certifying body somewhere. Because we don't want to launch clinical care cards, which are based on AI, which do not have some kind of certification behind them. So we are working with a variety of partners who have an AI-enabled therapeutic capabilities. Each one of them is a potential care card or a care journey. And there are many that we are talking to, and some that we are impressed with because they have received clearance and certification or clinical trials, which makes it useful for us to incorporate that card into the care wallet or into the care labs, so that when you're building a care network, you can grab that care card and use it, which will give you enormous power of the underlying AI capability. So this is point one. Point number two is to use AI within the care wallet for a specific client, for a specific wallet holder. Each one of us are unique. My health conditions and my health history is mine, and yours is yours, and they're very different. So the ability to use AI to analyze my care ledger to see if I have any unique risks and issues that I need to deal with is going to be a very useful thing, in the sense that we need AI trained models that can then that can take into account my unique care ledger, my unique care vault, and provide specific guidance to me. That's a different kind of a use case. It requires the AI engine to be trained on data similar to care ledger and care vault. And that's going to take longer because we will need to train the AI engine to study the care ledger data on an aggregate basis, and then to use that model to project individual recommendations. I don't see that happening in the next 6 months, but I think second half of the year, we can reasonably start to build such AI training models. The third use of AI here is at the network level. So where we can use AI to analyze the behavior of the entire care network from a client perspective. Let's say you are a hospital and you want to analyze the activity level of every participant in your network without, of course, knowing their identity, because you can't. And you identify using that data where the greatest risk to the patient lies, and then generate automatically some kind of a notification to the patient through a care card and let them know that they might have an opportunity or a gap in their care. So those are 3 different ways we can use AI: pre-built AI therapeutics, individual AI-based recommendations based on me choosing to analyze my care ledger, care vault data, which is private, or network level AI analytics that can be done by the client in partnership with an AI analytics and modeling that they believe add clinical or administrative or financial value. All 3 are logical use cases of AI in the care platform, care wallet, care network model. the one that we are closest to moving forward with, and we will see very important announcements around AI. I would expect either Q1, most definitely Q2, I would expect you to hear about how we have incorporated some artificial intelligence-based therapeutics into the platform. We're jumping to a KRW Pair listing. Now, you all know that we are not allowed to speculate or give you too much information about what we are doing, but I will say this, that yes, we mentioned this in the roadmap for 2023. We're very aware of it. We are working on this. And as soon as we have something that we can announce in the market, we will. It is very much on top of our mind and ton of activity. But anything more than that, I will only jeopardize the company or the project itself. But this is very much an active effort, and you should expect to hear more as time progresses. But we have neither forgotten nor taken our eyes off the ball. This is one of our important focus items for 2023, is to increase the visibility and volume and availability and accessibility of Solve, so that every patient, every doctor, every nurse, every pharmacist, every family member, no matter in what country they are in, have access to Solve token in and outside their Care wallet. And KRW Pair is an important pairing, and so are several others we're working on. So without telling you more than I can, I will say that stand by, we are working on it. Care schools. This is a really interesting question. So let's first talk about what are care schools. So care schools are an online education program which allows students to get a proper Canadian high school diploma, which means that if you complete the care school program, you have in your hand the Ontario Secondary Board of Education high school diploma, as if you live in Toronto and you go to school there. It's a rigorous program. It's not a simple program. It starts from first grade, goes all the way to high school. And when students complete the full course, they have a diploma. And that high school diploma is very powerful because it's a Canadian education diploma, which means that you are now eligible as a student to apply for any university in Canada. Not only that, you are eligible to apply for any university in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in New Zealand, and Australia, because the Canadian Board of Education is recognized as a valid high school education level by most of the world. Not all, but most of the world. So it opens up the opportunity for students who pass the care school and get their high school diploma to become global citizens. They can go to school or university anywhere, including the top 600 universities in the United States. So it is a massive door opener for students who don't live in the United States or don't live in Canada to have the same education as if they were living in Canada. So we have launched this program. Now, how did we do this program? It's very important. There is a great organization in Korea called Concordia, and they have built this program in collaboration with the Ontario Board of Education. And they offer this program in many countries. So we partnered with them, and their CEO and I met in Korea, and we agreed to bring this program to Ukraine. So between the Solve.Care's team in Ukraine and the Korean team in Seoul and many other countries that they're located in, we created a specific version of this program administered by them and co-administered by Solve.Care. And we have launched 3 care schools in Ukraine already. And we have students now enrolled and doing this program. Now, this is just a step because the demand for care schools is massive. Once parents understand that they're giving their children the opportunity to study both in the local schools, which they go to school on a regular basis, and then in the afternoon and evening go to care schools and get this dual high school diploma, it opens up the world to them. Because without care schools, they would not be able to apply to most universities in the world. They would be limited to local universities. And there are not that many left given the situation in Ukraine. So we are investing in the future of Ukrainian students by giving them the opportunity to enroll and participate and study in an online version of the Canadian high school. And we are sponsoring this program along with the Korean organization that actually administers and has the licensing rights and the controlling mechanism to ensure that the care schools are running properly. So this is a collaborative effort between Solve.Care and Concordia. It also goes to show that when you set your mind to doing something, you can find the right partners anywhere. And we're very proud of the fact that we're working with a Korean organization that serves students worldwide, but they had never done this in Ukraine. And with Solve.Care, they have brought this program in collaboration with us. Our job was to convince the local authorities, the government officials, the school board of education in Ukraine, and to convince the school principals to work with us to launch these care schools. And we have tremendous support from them. Starting with the mayors, we have care schools running in 3 schools, and every single mayor is involved. Every single principals in their local schools are involved. We have local teachers. We have the Board of Education and their heads involved. So this is a very big effort to collaborate between Ukrainian government, Ukrainian high schools and school system, Solve.Care and its team on the ground, and Concordia in Korea. And I'm really proud of the Solve.Care team for having pulled this off, because in my mind, we cannot have a world that is democratic and free if our students don't have good education, if our kids don't understand the value of democracy and freedom. And we need to reinforce these values, especially when war is raging and people are despairing. So what we are doing is not just supporting the population on the ground with food and shelter. We are really investing in the future generation. And I hope many of them will come work for us, and many of them will eventually, some of them may lead Solve.Care. This is all to be seen. But end of the day, what Solve.Care is doing is enabling the access to Canadian online high school program, and is orchestrating the entire process of setting up the schools, licensing the technology from Concordia, setting up the schools, getting the local buy-in, getting the students enrolled, administering the program, and ensuring that the program is running. And this is all done by the funding of Concordia and Solve.Care. We do not have external funding. The community supports us, and Solve.Care does, the team on the ground in Ukraine, does all this work. We have dedicated a small team to running shelters and schools. They are not involved in our day-to-day business, and day-to-day business does not rely upon them. So our software development and our delivery and our pods and our networks, all that work happens in the Solve.Care team, which is separate from the Our Care School Care Shelter team. So the company has a small division that works on care schools and shelters, which is nothing to do with our normal day-to-day business, but we believe it's really important what we are doing. And I will tell you that the value to the team, to the morale of the team, value to our brand, value to our customers who associate themselves with us is incredible. People appreciate what we are doing, because there's a lot of people who talk, very few people who have the courage to go into a war zone and do something. And we are doing something that no one else would have thought about doing even during peacetime. And now we're doing this during wartime and succeeding. So whenever you have a chance, reach out and say kudos to the Solve team that does this amazing job in addition to running the business. And yes, they are separate and dedicated teams that runs the schools and the shelters. And that's what we are working on and will continue to support. When will the first network with paid utility be in operation? So we expect to see multiple networks with paid utility in operation over the next 120 days. They are, as I mentioned earlier, we have multiple networks in authoring model. Some of them have paid utility from a device perspective. Some of them have paid utility from a card perspective. Some of them have paid utility from a consultation perspective. I will not share more details because there's a whole roadmap for journeys, but let me put it to you this way. This year alone, we expect to author and launch 200 plus journeys. And all journeys are tokenized, meaning every single journey uses Solve as gas. So in that sense, utility is already there. The second part of that is the journeys where either gas fee or payment, gas is common, either fee or payment will be used by the journeys. And there are significant percentage of these 200+ journeys where either fee or payment is involved. So the utility comes in 3 forms: gas for every single card in every journey, fees when they are related to third-party products and services, and payments when they happen within the network. All 3 models are part of this journey pool that we are authoring, and you will start to see more and more journeys that where the Solve fee and Solve payments are involved. Please provide updates on the announcements made in the Korean roadmap. So there are 4 networks here that are being mentioned: the Metaverse Hospital, which Dr. Lee is working on, the domestic patient doctor care wallet that is in progress right now, the device to doctor data collection and storage network that is on the roadmap for being authored this year. And there, as I mentioned, there are dozens more networks that are being authored. In Korea specifically, there is one more network here, which is the physician-to-physician consult or second opinion. That is not listed here, and that's also on the roadmap. And you will be getting updates on that in the next few days. So in a nutshell, US and Korea are the 2 dominant markets where we are launching the first wave of networks. But beyond that, there are many more markets where the networks are, where the clients and or partners are looking to author. We can only author so many networks, as I mentioned, 200+ journeys, but we expect that the market will author far, far more than that. When will the domestic care marketplace be activated? There are different domestic care networks. When you say domestic, I think you are meaning either US or Korea. So let's break it apart. There are a number of networks planned for US market, which are sponsored by clients, which are client-authored networks. And there are a number of networks, not as many as US, but several in Korea, which are being authored either by Solve.Care or by client or by partners. Now, one of the big networks in Korea that we are excited about is a government network. So more on that as the government gives us the ability to speak publicly. But there are multiple networks being launched. The 2022 roadmap we met partially, not fully, but most of the backlog from 2022 is now in 2023 roadmap, and it's much bigger than any network roadmap that we had for last year. And given that we have Care Labs and the authoring capability and the pods that were recently announced, it is much more likely that we can not only meet our own roadmap goals, but we can also support third parties to launch their own networks. So the answer to your question, some networks will launch in Q1, the rest will launch in Q2, and many will launch in Q2, Q3, Q4, and we will announce the network roadmap to you all as soon as we have the permission and the internal decision on how much of the roadmap we can share with you. Not everything will be public, because that opens us up to competitive risk, but we will publish networks as they get close to launch. How many Ps are in your pods and how many pods do you have? So in authoring pod uses the term pod because it means Ps in a pod. What does it mean? The idea of a pod and the structure of a pod is that everyone in the pod is the same and they can do everything. In other words, a pod can author a card or a journey or a network, whether it's a 1-person pod or a 3-person pod. Standard pod is 3 people. It consists of a pod lead and consists of a business and a technical analyst. And that's a standard pod structure of 3 people. It's highly cost efficient. It's highly effective. And most importantly, we're looking for speed. One of the key criteria of the pod is journey in a week, that they should be able to author a complete journey in a week and do better than a week. So the notion here is that we do not want to create a hierarchical structure. We don't want to create a functional team where you have a BA who only does business analysis and a TA who only does technical analysis and a developer who only does development and a QA who only does quality assurance. We are not looking for that hierarchical model. So we have invented a pod model that others have used as well, but we have invented that in the authoring concept, where the pod is horizontal in the sense every P in the pod does the same thing, where they can do it all by themselves. So if I want to author a journey, I can look to any member of the pod and say, please author this journey, and I need it in 3 days. And they should not require that person to collaborate with other members of the team, unless, of course, there's a valid reason. But the notion is to create a very reusable, interchangeable, and highly effective delivery authoring model where clients can come to us and say, author me a journey, and it literally takes few hours. Certainly the calendar period being a week or less. Now, imagine the power of that. When I was at larger organizations before Solve.Care, if somebody came to me, my business unit owners, let's say my medical officer or my claims officer or my director of membership or my partner, provider network manager or anybody, I would need to sit down with them and do requirements. I would need to allocate IT resources. I would need to get a budget approved. And a journey that Solve.Care can author in a week would require me to allocate somewhere between $100,000 to $250,000 of budget. And I would need to plan ahead 3 to 6 months to fit it into my team, in team's availability. With Solve.Care, I can send that business unit owner to Solve.Care and say, go work with them, author this journey that you have in mind, test it out with a handful of patients or doctors or nurses. All of that will run in the Care wallet. So all you have to do is to get the right target audience to download the Care wallet and test the journey. And in a couple of weeks, come back and tell me if you like it and if it works. And if it does, we can actually sign a contract with Solve.Care and you can publish your network. And I would budget $25,000 for this activity, which makes it a lot easier for me as a CIO to take risks that I previously could not. And more importantly, I would be able to be certain that any network built on the platform, any card built on the platform, any journey authored on the platform would interact with every other journey that somebody else authors. So if my medical officer wants to build a diagnostic, self-diagnostic journey for all the at-risk diabetics, and they can do that, but at the same time, I have my claims guys asking me for a self-member submitted claim journey, I know that those journeys will interoperate on the platform without me having to do anything, which is worth its weight in gold. So what we are looking for is the ability for the client to take risks. Now, one of you in a comment recently said that they object to our idea that we allow people to make mistakes quickly and learn from them, and that perhaps it's better to avoid mistakes. Well, it depends on what you call a mistake. In healthcare and in most other businesses, whenever you try to innovate, you have a choice of either taking risks or doing nothing, because not everything that you're going to imagine will work out exactly the way you imagined it. There are going to be functional issues. There are going to be data issues. There'll be compliance issues. There'll be adoption issues. There'll be training issues. There'll be communication issues. Whether you want to call them mistakes or lessons, the point is that we want to be provocative and tell the client that it's okay. The cost of failure on the platform is super low. You cannot afford not to try. You cannot afford to sit and wait for some better day in future, which is going to be worse than today. And if you are a healthcare leader of any kind, CEO, COO, CIO, CTO, CISO, doesn't matter, CRO, you know the cost of waiting is too high. The cost of opportunity is too high. So if you want to try and grow your business and you're not exactly sure if your idea is going to play out, or if you're absolutely sure that your idea will play out, but you haven't actually done it, then you call Solve.Care, and we will get you off and running within hours, within weeks. And your cost of trying it is negligible to the cost of not trying. So we lead with the idea that authoring pods de-risk your innovation. Authoring pods reduce your risk, time, and effort to market to the point where even if your idea doesn't work out, you now know at a fraction of the cost than going off and hiring IBM and saying, please build me this diabetes care journey and $1.5 million, and a year later, you field it in the market and you realize it's a bust. You better find out in a week if it's a bust, not in a year. You better find out with $10,000 that this journey is not, providers don't want to use the journey, then before you spend and bet your career on it. So it allows board members to see that the risk of trying is low. It allows the CEO, CIO, COO to quantify the risk and say, well, even though we only have 10,000 diabetics in our membership, It's not a huge member population that has type 2 diabetes with an uncontrolled BMI and a risk of heart attack. If we were to try to build a solution for this 10,000 patients, we might need to spend a couple of $1 million with somebody else, and that's not worth it. There's too little ROI, too much risk. But with Solve.Care, we can do it for 20,000. We can do it in 2 weeks. Well, we have to do that because if we get these 20,000 members under control, we could save $20 million. So your ROI equation looks very different with the authoring pods. So we have designed these pods. We have 2 so far to allow these pods to scale very quickly. But our goal is to make many of you into pods. We're not going to keep scaling our pods to 200 pods. Our job is to perfect the pod model, have between 2 to 5 pods fully operational this year, but then those pods will support external pods, which can be 200. So whether it is supporting Clinical Square to build their own pod, which we would like to do this year, or finding 20 other pod members with different skill sets, pharma or pharmacy or provider networks or member networks or benefit brokers or TPAs or ACOs, pods can have their specialization. We want them to understand the business of the client, but a pod is a very cost-efficient and a very effective organization model that allows rapid authoring at a very low cost. So today we have 2 pods. We will grow them. We don't expect to have dozens. We expect to have 4 to 5. But our real goal here is to have hundreds of pods in the market. If not hundreds, but certainly dozens. Because if we just break down healthcare into 12 core components, each of those components we can easily see having 2 pods: eligibility, enrollment, claim adjudication, clinical care management, case management, disease management, payment management, appointment management. There are about a dozen or so specific functional building blocks of healthcare that work worldwide. And the advantage of doing that is there are companies that just do one thing. There are companies that just do appointment management. That's their entire business. There are companies that just do case management. That's their entire business. And they are worth billions of dollars. But the problem is that every one of these companies is a silo unto itself. Whatever case manager you got, for that case management to talk to your benefit plan administration module is an act of God. It doesn't happen. And the job of a CIO at healthcare is to connect these unconnectable pieces. But in our world, everything is automatically connected anyway. So it removes the biggest headache and the biggest barrier to healthcare adoption, healthcare innovation, which is interoperability. And because all cards are interoperable by definition, and journeys can be defined to have the right level of interoperability from a published data model, and more will be announced in the market on that soon. But that makes us unique. There is a question that was asked, which I want to jump to towards the end. This question: within a few years, we expect that more healthcare transactions will run on Care platform use Care cards. And of course, that's a big statement. And how can we make that statement? What are we smoking? How is it possible? Here is how it's possible. And here's how it is going to happen. It's not about $12 trillion, guys. It's about the fact that majority of those $12 trillion are spent in silos. Even within a single hospital, even using a single EMR system, there are so many distinct pieces of software that need to talk to each other for the hospital to function. You have admission management, you have discharge management, you have case management, you have financial management, you have clinical care models, you have provider enrollment and network management, you have performance management, you have revenue management and compensation management. And that's just one. A typical hospital will have 150 or more systems that need to talk to each other, and they don't. So the question is not whether we are being too bold. We are simply saying the current model is broken. The current model is unsustainable, and every hospital CIO will tell you they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth, trying to make do with all this mass of systems that they have to somehow connect and control. And that's why they're so resistant to innovation, because it's already a handful they're working with. There's already too much on their plate to do what is seemingly impossible. So our position is that if we rethink the platform, if we rethink the healthcare IT infrastructure, and if we use a global fabric like Solve.Care, and we allow interoperable cards to run from any to any model of a care network, where you can collect and organize your participants into a care network, but you are using the underlying fabric to be stretched across the globe, you will do it because it's too expensive to do it any other way. So I am convinced that not because I'm an optimist, I'm not, but I'm convinced because I'm a realist. And as a former CIO of large health organizations, I cannot sustain the current chaos, the current expectations from me. And I need something like Solve.Care. Now, I'm not saying that I will go to Solve.Care and build my care network. I'll probably go to my local partner that I trust to build a network on Solve.Care fabric for me. But the fabric of Solve.Care platform with its wallets and cards and even a layer 2 trust layer, all those things, if they are in place, then I have no choice but to use this to take care of things that I cannot take care of today. So I'm not saying that we'll capture the full $12 trillion of revenue, because nobody will. What I'm saying is we'll be relevant to every part of healthcare, regardless of which country, regardless of what size of healthcare organization you run, and regardless of what socioeconomic status you have as a patient. And yes, we will impact this enormous, and I'm not sure the $12 trillion number is correct, but it is trillions. We know that. It is way more than 8 trillion. I do not know that it has hit 12 trillion. It may have. But we know that there's trillions of dollars of investment, out of which at least 20 to 30% of that doesn't go towards the care of the patient. So we know that there is at least 2 trillion a year that is being wasted, where Solve.Care can come in and just eliminate that waste. And by doing that, we touch every aspect of healthcare in every part of the world. So we will continue on this journey. And we are not making these statements because we are some kind of, we have some kind of illusion. We make these kind of statements because we recognize that with the care platform and the care labs and the standardization of cards and wallets and the upcoming releases that you will hear about, which I think are game-changing. They're absolutely game-changing beyond what we have already built. And you will hear it and it'll make your head spin in a good way. We are making these statements because we see a way to standardize what is totally non-standard, custom and disjointed and siloed healthcare fabric. And we are making it cheap enough and low risk enough to make that possible, which brings us back to this question, which is the pods. Let's go here again. The pods again. If we lower the barrier of entry from a risk perspective and from an ROI perspective and from a time perspective, 3 factors. What's my risk of doing it? How much risk do I take in terms of human risk? How much of my team time has to be spent to try it out? How much is my financial risk in trying it out, the building a journey and launching it? And what is the ROI if it works? How long will it take for me to get my ROI? A week, a month, a year, or a decade? If we address those 3 questions to where the CIO goes, holy shit, we are in serious business. So our claim to fame has to be, you cannot afford not to try. You cannot afford not to use Solve token and care cards in the care wallet, because every other alternative is 10 times worse, and we are really good. That's the model, and that's where authoring pods fit in. I'm going to say this, Definitize is on fire. We are in a good way. We are doing with Definitize what we sought to do last year, and we are going to make some significant announcements on Definitize in the coming days. So I will not spoil the work that the team is doing, but get ready and get ready to get engaged. Can we get an update on the effort to raise new capital? Yes, you can. On the new capital side, we have identified that our care labs and our authoring pods and our network pipeline and our ROI equation that we have created for our clients is very attractive to very large investment players. So then now the question is, what kind of money do we want and what terms do we want it in? So there are 3 fundamental ways that we can pursue capital this year. And yes, there is a macroeconomic concern, no doubt. people are shouting about, and correctly so, that things are looking very bleak. Inflation, although it's starting to come down, is still very high. The investment sentiment is still very low. The crypto market is going through a winter, although it might be starting to look like towards the end of the winter, but who knows? You can't bet on any of that. But our view is a little bit different. Our view is that we are the right solution for a high inflation, investment averse, low growth market. From a capital market perspective, when the tide is rising, even the leaky boats rise. Bad projects get funded, good projects get funded, money starts to be cheap, valuations go through the roof, expectations are sky high, and at that point in time, it's difficult to separate the value proposition that Solve.Care has from every other person claiming that they're going to change the world. In the market as we are facing today, in the capital market and the crypto market, you better be real, you better be good, you better know what you're talking about, and you better prove it. So Care Labs, Care Pods, the authoring pods, and all the Care networks that we have scheduled and all the clients we have signed up is the proof that every other project that I know of in healthcare struggles with, especially when you look at blockchain projects. They're all chains looking for a solution. We're a solution that already is clear and identifiable and delivers tangible value to clients in the context of return on investment. So we don't lead with technology stack, we lead with value stack. And from that perspective, we are more attractive in a market where everybody is struggling. Our clients aren't going to go out there and throw $20 million on a new platform or a new solution. They're going to look for solutions like Solve.Care, which are secure, compliant, and interoperable, and they don't cost an arm and a leg to launch a journey or a network on. So we become much more attractive. Fear is a good thing. In fear, people start to evaluate and triple ask the question, is it really worth it? Are the people going to be able to deliver? So show me becomes better phrase than tell me. And we are in a position where show me makes a lot more sense to our, aligns with our strengths, because we can show you. You want to author a journey? Let's do a workshop. Tomorrow we'll do a workshop, and by end of the week, you'll have a fully functioning journey in your Care wallet. That's show me. Nobody else can beat us on that. So raising new capital becomes very attractive for us because we have a fear-driven market where only those who can prove things, those who have a clear business model will get funded. And it's also the time when others aren't getting funded. So we can build now while the market is fearful. So when the market comes out of it and goes back into a growth mode, we are poised to grow like crazy. When should users expect announcement of roadmap for 2023? I would say that you should expect that in the first quarter. I won't give you another date than that because of specific reasons, but the roadmap is complete. It will be shared with you in the first quarter. And when we share it, you will know why we held off on sharing it. You will understand the reason, but the answer is it's in the current quarter. Are there any plans to have legal representation for Solve.Care in regions like Africa? Absolutely. So our model is that our partners who activate pods will become our regional representatives in the countries or continents that they represent. Minimally, we see ourselves having at least one pod in each major target market, but there are many target markets. You can segregate the world into continents and into G20 versus G7 versus the developed economies versus the underdeveloped economies. In healthcare, none of those classifications make any sense. G20 patients are not any more desirous of good health than G100 patients. So those typical geopolitical and economic segregations have some value, but not a lot of value in healthcare. What we are looking for is quality of partner. What we are looking for is a clinically or administratively licensed authority entity to become a partner. So we don't really care if a certified entity in India or in Indonesia or in South America wants to be a representative. We're not going to say to them, well, you are coming from a market that we don't target, because we target every market, because every person on the planet needs healthcare. So the plans to have regional representation are driven by our ability to replicate pods. And these pods are essentially getting structured enough where anyone who wants to represent Solve.Care as a reseller or as an integrator in a market will have a pod structure to adopt and demonstrate. So all of this fits into this model of the authoring pod that we announced a couple of days ago. The entire global expansion strategy through third-party pods is what we are putting in place. And this is part of the reason why I'm not answering every one of your questions 100%, because over the next 3-4 weeks, you will see a lot more about what we are really doing on a global scale. And I think you will really like it, which is one of the reasons we are running a continuous announcement model, because we have so much done and we want to make sure that we layer in the full information step by step so you understand. And when we announce the main event on February 21, all of this will make sense to you. And all of this is going to make you go, now I get it. Do you expect to be cash flow positive this year? Yes. How many active users will that take? Okay. The first one is simple. The second one is more complex. There are 3 types of revenue Solve.Care has. There is the one-time professional services revenue, which comes from authoring and training. The second is our utility revenue, which comes from Solve token being utilized as gas fee or payment, plus the node fees that go with every wallet that joins any network. Every wallet joining a network creates a node. So there are node fees and there are gas payment and gas fee and payment plus node. Those are our recurring revenue. And then you have a third type of revenue that is starting to look quite attractive, and that is the third-party services and products, including AI and devices. So AI-based therapeutic apps, FDA-approved devices, and other third-party packaged services and goods that we can inject into the care marketplace is our third revenue with a revenue share model. So it's not just about active users, it's also about number of networks. So there are 3 parts that will drive the revenue. How many networks we author, how many participants were aggregated across all the networks we have that are paying node fees, how much utility each network is driving in terms of gas events that charge gas and payment and fees, and how many devices and other products we are selling in the care marketplace. So that's the picture of the revenue. It's the authoring and training revenue, it's the utility of the network revenue, and it's the product sales revenue share. That combination gives us cash flow positive. So number of active users, I do not know. We can calculate some models, and we have calculated many different models, but they vary dramatically because the network design determines the revenue. So I think you should be focused on the fact that we fully expect to be cash flow positive this year by the combined revenue of the 3 types. But the revenue that we care the most about is the transactional revenue from gas fee and payment using Solve token, and the node fees paid in Solve token. That's the revenue we ultimately care about. Every other revenue we'll be willing to sacrifice as long as the Solve token driven revenue is growing. There was a talk of a Fortune 10 sponsored network when interoperability is reached. Yes, interoperability is being reached to the level that I wanted. Is this a fair expectation for 2023? It's a fair goal for 2023. We absolutely expect to see what we started last year, both from a very large community or a city that we mentioned, authoring a network. And we already are seeing traction with other cities, as well as with Fortune 10 that we talked about last year. They are all reasonable goals and expectations for 2023. But in the revenue model, we have not projected these large clients because they can be like a Boolean answer. You know, one large client like that can triple our revenue, and one miss can reduce the revenue by 70%. So our revenue model does not include these outliers because it is better to be conservative in planning your expenses, but aspirational in reaching from a revenue point of view. So there is multiple clients that would fit the definition of state-sponsored or city-sponsored networks, and we are absolutely pursuing all the deals that we were working on last year. But it's a lot easier now when we can point to very finite data, very tangible data. Look, end of the day, we know 2023 is a year of adoption. We know 2023 is a speed of adoption. And we know that 2023 year is all about actual revenue that will drive massive Solve and wallet and token, wallet and card utility. And the authoring pods gives us that power to author a journey. Let's look at things in context. The first 5 years of the company, 5 years, we authored 100 journeys. In 2023, we plan to author 200 journeys. Obviously, something has changed. Obviously, something is very different. When you can author twice the number of journeys you did in half a decade in a single year, and that's not counting third-party pods. So the world has changed pretty dramatically for us, and we're very excited. And yes, the answer is you should expect some big networks with very large adoption this year, no doubt. Okay, so we've covered most of the questions that were given to me, and we are about an hour or 45 minutes into the AMA. So there is a lot of time, guys. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and I'm going to ask you to send your questions into the team through Telegram. And I'll come back in 5 minutes, and we'll take a look at what questions you have, and we'll keep going. And if any of these questions that I've answered you're not satisfied with, I will try to answer it again. But I will also remind you that some things I cannot share with you, even if you've asked me and you will ask me again, because I will not do anything to jeopardize our clients or our compliance issues and or giving the competition information that they should not have. But having said that, anything I can answer, I'll be more than willing to. So let's take a 5-minute break and let's see what questions you guys can submit. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So it looks like we have some new questions, and they're not written here, so I will just read them out. So the first question is this one here. I did not realize this is the question. I thought this was the agenda. So let's go through this. So please provide update on each of the following. So 2023 roadmaps are done. We will announce them, and I think I would expect, and I'll be surprised if you're not super excited about them. There are 2 roadmaps. Actually, there are multiple, but the key roadmap that we will publish is our Solve.Care roadmap. And then we'll also publish our network delivery roadmap, and they're 2 different things. The Solve.Care roadmap is our global healthcare infrastructure roadmap, which we started 5 years ago with the publishing of the white paper. And the network roadmap is the adoption and utility roadmap. And they go hand in hand. But the fact that we can talk about 2 roadmaps tells you how different and unique Solve.Care is compared to every other blockchain platform or every other token. Because everybody's talking about their platform and token and protocol roadmap. And that's fine. We'll give you an incredibly thoughtful roadmap there, because we have had that in the back of our pocket for years, and we will release it for the very first time. But the second part of the roadmap is the adoption and utility roadmap, and that is equally important. So you will have that within this quarter. And I don't want to give you specific dates, because dates are actually set, but the team is working through managing a whole lot of announcements that are so fundamental. Over the next 3-4 weeks, you have a whole lot of announcements that are being planned, and they are making sure that the things are done in the right sequence. And when you get to February 21, you will understand why the sequence was chosen. So the answer to your question is you have 2 roadmaps that you can expect to see. The corporate roadmap for evolution of the company and as a global platform and as a global healthcare fabric, as well as which is the care platform deployed in a worldwide setting. And then you have the adoption roadmap in terms of which client will use the network, to use the platform to launch the network in which quarter. Management recruitment is moving along well. We have a dedicated in-house recruiter who is fantastic, and he is able to recruit worldwide. He has already forged a new recruiting model, and we are recruiting in-house. So we have stopped using recruiting agencies. We have stopped using third-party agencies and recruiters. They are, 1, too expensive. Second, they are always a risk in that we have to share a lot of our corporate information with them, and they can then use that information to steal our people in the future. So we are all internal now, and it is working really well. Our general counsel role is done. Now we are focused on the CFO CRO role, Chief Revenue Officer and Chief Financial Officer. And those are the 2 big positions for 2023, but it's moving along quite well. I've already covered D in the previous slide when I explained to you that we are pursuing the three-pronged approach, but we are very confident that the market sentiment, and the fear-driven market that we are in right now is actually very, it's not easy, it just makes it easier for us to stand out from the crowd, and we are working on this. The F, blockchain migration, is a huge, huge topic. We have huge news to deliver to you on that. So stand by. I cannot give you advanced information, but I do want to tell you about what that is at the right time. But blockchain migration and the whole trust layer, and in terms of both trust and swapping of tokens, there is an enormous amount of work being done, and we will announce it when we are ready, not today. And the same with F and G, they are related. The blockchain determines the scanner, and we are treating them as the same exact issue, and we have a lot of work being done there. So stand by. I cannot share more information on that right now, but a very exciting news coming not far down the road. And when you do hear it, I expect you to be jumping for joy. New board members, yes, announcements are coming. Board is being reconstituted, has been reconstituted for 2023, and you will see some very prominent new members join the board. They already have, but we're not going to announce them till we are ready. Partnerships, there is a whole lot of partnerships in the works. Some are crypto partnerships, big partnerships, some are healthcare partnerships, some are device, some are therapeutic apps. There's a lot in the works. Many of them are game changers. Many of them in the past would have said no thank you, but now they're at the table. So partnerships are moving along fine, and I think there's a whole litany of announcements coming that should make you very excited. Website revamp. So we have started the process of rethinking our website. The goal was to do it in 2 stages or even 3. So there will be a revamp in Q1. There will be a bigger revamp in Q2, and then probably a complete and final revamp in Q3. We have to do it because our clients are asking for more information from us. Our partners are asking for more information. Investors are saying that they need to see a more pertinent information for them. So everything between A and J requires a new website refresh. Maria and I have started working on what the revamp looks like. I want to be very involved. This is not just tactical, this is strategic. We will also involve our CFO, our CTO, our CRO, our general counsel, everybody, but largely it's being led by Maria and I. The last one is the most important one, community engagement. You don't have to wait very long. Get ready to get engaged. The time is coming when you stop watching and you start doing with us. And that announcements plus many others is coming in the next days, not weeks and not years. So get ready to get engaged, guys, is all I'll tell you, but also get excited because what we have planned for 2023 includes engaging you and launching some really powerful new networks with your support. So no doubt about that community engagement is a key pillar for the company this year. Okay. All right, let's see, what other questions do we have? Will there be a desktop version of the wallets? And will it be possible to sync and connect to Care Labs wallet from the Care wallet and vice versa? So Care Labs wallet and Care Labs are already connected. And the Care wallet is a identical copy or a similar product, but it works with not the labs, but with the actual Care network. So you have Care Labs wallet talking to Care Labs environment and Care wallet talking to Care network environment. So they are parallel and sister products, and they're both being developed in parallel. So that's already happening. Now, in terms of the desktop version, given the new M2 chip or the M chip, it is possible to run the mobile apps on the Mac. So on the iOS side, there is no need to have a desktop version. We believe that within the next 12 to 18 months, there will be no issues whatsoever to have the same software run on phone and iPad and the Mac OS. That's not the case for Android. So we are looking at, does it make sense to have a version of the wallet on the desktop? And right now our answer is no. We want to focus on the mobile environment and the pad environment. We do not wish to build a desktop a version of the wallet that runs in the browser. So that's our decision, that the browser-based version will not exist, but the native or emulation mode of a native app will be available definitely on the iOS and macOS, but will not. We haven't decided on whether we want to solve that problem in the Android in some different way. But the bottom line is we're not going to port the Care wallet to the browser. We're going to keep it as a native app. All right. Let's see, what else do we have? Can we expect to be able to see tokens being transacted in a network in Q1? This is the other question. You will be able to see aggregated transactions in Q1 and network-specific transactions in Q2. And that's part of our upcoming announcement. You will see that. All right. The other question is related to our activities in Korea. We have a number of announcements related to Korea. I will not tip my hand on that too early, but there is a lot of activity in Korea, some large announcements related to Korea that are coming, and you don't need to wait very long for those announcements to come out. So stand by on the Korea. There's more than a few things we have to tell you about the Korean market. All right. I don't have any other questions, folks. So let's do this. If your questions have been answered, great. If you want more details, if we cannot answer them publicly, send them and we'll try to answer them privately. Obviously, we will not share what we consider corporate information that in the hands of third parties can do damage. So client lists, network, revenue, of our detailed revenue breakdown, these are not things we're going to publicize. They're too dangerous to be put out in the market, because it's not just you listening. There are people listening who we don't want to have listen to this information. And remember that a lot of our information, the most frequent reader of that is our competitors. We see certain very big IT companies follow our blogs and our chats and our website more than even our clients. So we are being careful in not sharing what will give them ammunition to win against us. So when it comes to exact revenue numbers of the company, or when it comes to the client list, or when it comes to the exact network scale or network revenue, we are not going to share that, at least till we feel it's safe enough to do so. But generally speaking, those of you who've been with us can read between the lines and understand what I'm trying to say. I see no other questions right now, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up and wish you all well. But I will say one thing very clearly. The next 3 weeks are seminal. They are extremely important. So I want you to stay very engaged. And I want you to understand that this announcements per week are not by accident. We are doing them as part of an overall communication strategy that leads up to you understanding why we did this. So when we tell you, when you look at the sequence of announcements, each of them giving you more and more insights and more positive surprises, you will know why we did it the way we did it. This is not by accident, this is by design. So stay tuned, stay engaged, share the news that we are releasing with everyone you know, because this all adds up to something really fundamental of how healthcare and how blockchain and how Solve.Care are working how Solve.Care is working with blockchain and healthcare to drive a truly global change. Thank you everyone for your time, and we will be in touch, and I will ask the team to set up another AMA in about 3 to 4 weeks time, if need be sooner, and I wish you all well. Take care.